Luminora. Rose has a lot that she can offer us to get us prepared for the oncoming surge of VR and AR adoption. Rose, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
So I figured it would be great to let our
I'm
viewers.
not sure if there's a little bit of a lag.
We do have a bit of a lag. Okay. Can you give our viewers a little bit of an insight into your background?
Sure. I first started working in virtual reality in high school. I worked on military headsets. I wanted to have an engineering internship before I went to college. And so worked on VR headsets in high school. I worked in the same lab as the Oculus Rift founders, or one of the founders, University of Maryland. Built my own augmented reality headset because Google Glass is too expensive. Worked at MetaVision, for those of you who know MetaVision, and been recruited by almost all the majors, and has built a more advanced display system for augmented and virtual reality.
You have a very impressive background. I can't wait to learn more about, about all of that. What is the science, Rose, behind how optics trains the brain?
Yeah, so augmented and virtual reality are incredibly powerful. I think it's helpful to kind of illustrate how powerful and what the impact is through some research studies. So some studies have shown that that we can actually implant false memories. There's a study done with some mice, and they had like a flash of visualization, and the mice remembered the visualization as if it was real. And so people can get false memories and remember things as being very real. And studies show that you can get stressed out just like it's the real world. VR has been able to help quadriplegics to walk again. There's a study at Duke University with 8 people who were able to regain some muscle activity and sensation. Studies have shown that people learn up to 80% more knowledge using virtual reality headsets. So it goes into the visualization system, and the visualization system really just taps directly into our brain. Is incredibly important to memory power to how we function.
And I think, and this is some of the pros and cons of virtual. Sometimes technology and bandwidth can work a little against you, but it sounds like you were kind of talking about some of the really significant pros and cons of visualization related to VR headset usage. And I think it's important that we're aware of all of these. So Rose, what are some of the important aspects of a quality headset design?
Headset design. As most of you probably know, the designs haven't changed a whole lot since Oculus Rift came out. We have a lot of different augmented reality headsets, but nothing's really stuck or really like been able to be adopted. And so the problem is that it's incredibly complex what the specifications are that need to be. It needs to be compact. As some of the other people mentioned, the depth and ability to perceive depth is incredibly important. Get the lighting right. You have to actually like image that you want to see. And the real and virtual world integration is really one of the most critical components, and why we really haven't seen augmented reality that it's easy to display in front of to in the virtual world exactly where it would be in the real, for it to have the football world. And this is where the technology needs to head in order to be adopted.
And for those of you who might be having trouble with the audio, we'll be definitely connecting later on during a meet and greet. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, Rose, is why do you feel this is important? Perfect. There you go. Yes.
What's wrong with the audio? So why is this important? So a lot of people have complained about feeling nauseous when they wear headsets, or a lot of people who have trouble seeing 3D depth. So if you are wearing your glasses, wearing virtual reality glasses, and then you go to drive your car, that's a huge problem and a huge risk for somebody to be doing. And then also for some of the, not just esports, but real sports, whenever you're trying to have muscle memory, it's really important that the muscle memory actually matches what's going to happen in the real world. And so if parity between the real and the virtual world, this gives you a really uneasy feeling, almost as if you're in an earthquake, or like the whole world is just falling apart.
Well, it's funny. Somebody had asked a question earlier during the esports session about they used the word holography. I don't know if that's a word that you're familiar with, but we started talking about some of the different modes of virtual reality, augmented reality, and now I think heads up displays. Does that fall into AR? And then of course now we have holograms. Like, how do you differentiate these different things, and why do you think augmented reality specifically isn't being adopted?
So I'm such a science nerd. A hologram in science means something different than how people, or as we made them in science class, in our labs, is different than how people use it. So it can mean anything from, you guys probably remember these, like you looked at a little plate and then it looks like if there's a 3D object on the inside, and as you move around, there's a hologram. What it's come to mean today is that there's a projection of an image in the real world that kind of comes out of nowhere. And you can use techniques similar to, if you guys have seen the pig that's inside of the saucer, to have something floating up. And a lot of these are just optical tricks. I also worked on some lightsaber technology, which makes it possible to light into the exact location that you want. And this is another way to start to create different visualizations. So a hologram can be used in glasses. Apple purchased a hologram company in hopes of doing this. They've since announced that they're no longer building an AR headset, so I assume they figured out it's the right approach. A heads-up display is something that you wear and have a visualization, visual display in front of you. Is that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. And yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we have a little bit of a lag, but that's okay. We'll get through it. So there was another question actually asked earlier that I thought would be good to ask you as well about, what is the right age for a child to begin wearing a VR headset, and why is it that 13 seems to be the age that they're focused on in a lot of these instructions?
Yeah, so I think that's a really complex answer. Part of it is, what is the content they're consuming? We definitely don't want them to necessarily have dystopian shooting games younger than 13, because the brain really doesn't understand that. Even for adults, it doesn't understand, but we at least have some, our neural pathways are actually built and refined enough. So that we can actually have some resiliency and resistance to believing that. But a child who's going in and wearing this as an 8-year-old, their whole entire nervous system will assume that they're actually in a battlefield. There are some case studies that you know about of some children who their eyes have gotten significantly older with prolonged use, and there can be some problems with extended exposure to light, and part of that comes from like a lack of flexion in the eye. So even though something might look 3D, if you have the screen just basically in front of you, then your eye is just going to stay open and you're going to have a constant light exposure, even if it's a small amount. And this is really challenging for the eyes.
And, just a little bit of background for the audience. You and I met through Gatherverse. Christopher Lafayette built this beautiful community for people that are developing solutions for Web3, for AI, for metaverse, so that we can all come together and bring humanity first solutions. And, a lot of people say you're talking about vision and safety, and then you talk about the metaverse. Aren't these contradictory conversations? And in a lot of ways, you're talking about the dangers of VR and AR, yet you are working on a solution, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But, I think maybe that is the reason to, take a stab at bringing some of these solutions to market. It's definitely one of the reasons I'm very excited to be a part of the optical metaverse as a mom. My kids are going to have to be in the metaverse. There's no way to avoid that. And, kids are going to have to be in VR and AR in the future. It's becoming a part of schooling even. So I think it is important that although we know about some of these dangers, that if we're in a position, we have knowledge or access to resources, or we're just courageous enough that we do take a stab at these challenges. Tell us a little bit about how you're taking this intense knowledge you have and doing something about it.
Yeah, so thanks for giving me the opportunity. Chris is really great. I hope he is on here. If not, we'll have to send him a thank you again. So what we're doing is, because I have so much background and experience in augmented and virtual reality, and I really love the use cases, I actually helped to build one of the first massive online open courseware systems before EDX and Coursera. We actually pitched to one of the unicorn founders before they were unicorn. So maybe they got their idea from us. Anyways, so, but the problem with the current headsets is you just can't adopt it full time for education. You would get neck strain, some carpal tunnel syndrome, you get eye fatigue, eye strain, and again, you are going to lose a lot of that, like the important development of how to use the visualization system and things that we might even take for granted, like being able to have a quick enough perception of our vision that that something is running in front of a car or a bicycle, for instance. And so the current headsets as they are today, just they're too bulky. It's not really well tested for how it fits with the eye. There are not really a lot of regulations on what actually is helpful or useful for human development. And maybe just everyone, it'll be like Fahrenheit 451 and everyone will just sit in their lounge chairs in their virtual reality system. But what we're building is something that can actually integrate the real and the virtual world, help to make the real world even more interesting. So for instance, I imagine going on nature walks and having our glasses being able to say, this is an oak tree, or this is a maple tree, or taste this berry, and helping people to have more interest, instead of the headsets as they exist today are really mostly gaming. And if you look at the use cases, it's only about 10%, and 10% of the market is gaming. And so in order for us to get to the 90% other use cases, we really have to have a better headset. So I was studying at Stanford and found a new way of designing optics, biomedical. We're taking a biomedical based approach. So we're the first ones that actually take more of like a medical-based approach into developing our glasses. And so we have something that's a lot more compact, full field of vision, lightweight. We actually improve your eyesight 40x, so you can see things more clearly than you would be able to in the real world. So as the other, I think Dr. Fong was talking about that people don't want to see things brighter, but we can actually help you to see more detail than what you would. That's what we're building with our headset.
Well, and when Dr. Lamont and I met and started working on this Children and Vision Development Initiative, it was exciting to me because getting so exposed to the metaverse and seeing all of the technologies coming, I had no idea. I mean, I have a gaming system in every room in my house, 3 of them actually. So I'm not immune to gaming, but I just did not understand where technology was going. And we talked about VR headset safety. We scoured the earth. I've got friends that, work at Stanford, and we tried to get any information we could on, VR headset safety. And there are some preliminary studies that have been done, but just to tease our audience a little bit about how children and vision development and you and your great work will be able to work together in the future. How can people get involved if they want to, participate in future studies and support some of the research that we hope to do together?
Yeah, so I was really excited to get a letter of intent from you guys yesterday, the initiative. So we will be working on raising funds in order to do research, in order to understand some of these aspects, to more clearly lay it out in technical terms, because even in developing the headset, it's been incredibly difficult to find even standard specifications for the human eye for children. And children instruction that actually we have metrics. It's really important that everyone's on the same page. And as I told you a lot about, I had trouble finding any experts to help even validate what we're doing or help to make improvements, because we're just taking a very different approach. And when people do things for a professional purpose versus an engineering purpose, sometimes there's 2 different sets of information that's needed. And so we will be working together in order to bring those together. So I was a specialty researcher at Stanford, specialty student, and hoping to help contribute more.
Yeah, and if you're a manufacturer or you're an eye doctor or you're somebody who's just passionate about, gaming or VR and AR, reach out to us. We'll be looking for tons of volunteers and sponsors for this great research. And if you're a parent, stay tuned, because you definitely need to have this information. And we're hoping we can just answer a lot of those questions that we've been getting. Rose, I'll give you the last word and let you sign us off.
Yeah, I'd love to be in touch and hear from anyone about what your frustrations are or what your visions are. I think this not having a great headset to work in multiple fields or multiple verticals has kind of decreased the market. But the more that I know what's going on, the more I can bring that to investors and help to create different ecosystems. I mean, ultimately, I want to build this not for myself. I have a ton of use cases that I want to build it for. I'm a total nerd engineer. I've done lots in computer vision, healthcare, education. And so there's so much that I want to do with the headsets. It just isn't possible without something better. But ultimately, we need to be there to support one another. And I'm very happy to help help bring the use cases to the forefront to make it more well understood what's important and why it's not happening. I'm really excited to get to do this research. I mean, it doesn't exist. The resources don't exist. So we'll be helping quite a bit in the future.
Well, thank you for all of you. Many of you have been here since 12 o'clock when we started today, and we have plenty more coming up. So Thank you again, Rose, for joining us today. And thank you for all of us for sticking it through and having a great day with us today. We'll see you in a little bit. Bye.